Oh, what's going on, guys? Welcome into Energy News Beat here on this chilly Tuesday, January 26, 2021. As always, I am your humble correspondent, Michael Tanner, coming to you from an undisclosed location here in Denver, Colorado, joined by the executive producer of the show, the purveyor of the show, and the director and publisher of the world's greatest website, EnergyNewsBeat.com, Stuart Turley. How you doing today?
Hey, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood here at the lake. So sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm sitting here in Denver right now. We got about 2 inches of snow outside, and it doesn't let up. But that drives natural gas prices up. So all you bulls on natural gas, finally that weather trade comes back. You can check out everything we're going to cover on the rundown via to my left here. But first, guys, just subscribe to this YouTube channel, Energy Newsbeat. Smash that like button. If I was a 16-year-old YouTuber, I would say that more, but I'll cut you some slack there. Also, if you just want the best stream of consciousness for energy news, go to energynewsbeat.com, click the little bell in the bottom right hand corner. It's going to keep you up to date on every single story we drop, so you're always tapped into what's going on. Speaking of what happened in the equity markets today, I'll just start by giving you top line indices. SPY currently down about a tenth of a percentage point. Nasdaq up about a tenth of a percentage point. Dow Jones pretty much finishing flat. Why? Earnings come out in earnest starting this afternoon with Microsoft, and then as we roll into Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, as I mentioned that yesterday, General Electric was up about 9 percentage points today on better than expected free cash flow. Johnson & Johnson, who's actually supposed to come out with a new vaccine, they were up 3% after they topped expectations. 3M also jumped 3 percentage points after strong results. Tech giant Microsoft, they'll be announcing earnings after we release the show there, so check out. That'll be an interesting what happens to the Dow Jones there. When we move over to the crude oil side, fairly flat currently. Front month contract 52.51. It's about a half a percentage point on the downside. Back end of the curve's about the same, down to 50.44. When we look at what's driving, I mean, really we're just in between fundamentals right now. We're waiting OPEC, which doesn't happen next month. It happens the following month. Remember, they're meeting every other month. Stu's got some stuff in the international side that's kind of booming some fundamentals, but really API at 2:30 here on Mountain Central Time is going to go ahead and drop out what numbers for crude oil build. Analysts are expecting a draw. That's what we're expecting, but who knows? And then tomorrow we'll get the confirmation of whatever the API says with the EIA. So we'll be watching for that fundamental data. As always, Thursday we get natural gas stocks. Speaking of natural gas, speaking of it being cold in Denver, cold swatch moves in. We see natural gas prices spike about 2.2 percentage points, $2.66. I mostly kid. The front month contract in natural gas is not affected by what's the weather that's happening. It's a 5 to 10 day outlook. It's supposed to be a lot colder in the Midwest starting today. So yes, it's convenient that natural gas prices spike, but when you look at why is natural gas moving, it's a more holistic scale. You got to look at it on a little more of a 5 to 10 window time frame. Energy securities, not good day. They're down 2.6 percentage points for our XOP contract, 66.06. OIH, which is oilfield services contract, down 1.9 percentage points, currently trading about $163.55. Some of our biggest movers on the downside, they're going to, remember, this is going to be our biggest mover, down 2.6. So we're going to see a lot of our heavy movers. Vermilion, they're down 8.6. Telrenian, they're down 10 percentage points. Next Decade, down 11.11. And Sanchez Mitsui, after being up 30%, swings back down 21% today. Still some winners on the upside. Haldor Energy up 5.8 percentage points. Phoenix Minerals fighting back from the dead. They're up 7.3 percentage points. Peabody Energy, a coal company out of Wyoming, they're up 15.2 percentage points, currently trading about $3.70. Stu, internationally, bring us up to date. What's going on your side of the world?
Well, I'll tell you what, we have had so much fun over the last couple of weeks with spoofing and doping. And, I would have never thought we'd have those kind of things. But here's a story. The U.S. tries to seize oil shipments, it says, came from Iran. And it's actually called the Achilles. I'm not sure if it's the Achilles heel, but it is actually a ship owned by a Greek ship owner. And he called up the U.S. State Department and said, sorry, but I don't know where I tripped and fell into all this Iranian oil. I don't know. And so Iran is going out and selling as much oil as they can. Even they're more emboldened by the new Biden rules coming up. I just got tickled by that Greek owner saying, I don't know how I tripped into all this.
The Greek are wild people. Love me a good euro.
Yeah, 2 million unheralded Iranian. I don't know how OPEC's going to keep their children in business. I
They
mean,
won't. And it's stories like these that'll move fundamental data. When we talk about what OPEC's going to talk, when we talk about how much supply is actually, it's stories like this, Stu, that are really going to move
and
markets on that front.
okay, here's another one.
What do you
We
got?
got our boys over in Libya.
Oh,
Remember how we called that, and we actually had folks call up and go, "Hey, you guys are right. We're right again." The 32-inch pipeline can carry about 200,000 barrels per day in the nation's export terminal S. Cider at the Waha oil operates. Go figure that one out. Now, the guards' actions it's being interacted with the Chinese. The Chinese got their fingers in everything all around the world. The Libya's energy sector would harm all Libyans if they cross the line on this export. So Libya is really another wild card. You have Iraq, Iran, Libya, Turkey, Greece. You have all these things floating around over there, putting a whole new definition to the word floater. The next one coming up is India. We're rolling around to India, and we love the Indians. We love the Indian leadership.
yep.
They have the Indians' goal of doubling renewable power next year is getting a boost from international investors, Michael. It is now a good thing to invest in India because there's a lack of, there's not a fear of being taken over by a government controlled agency, like if you're investing in Venezuelan or anything like that. So number one in green energy country, guess what? Give me a guess. Guess what country? Most
It's going to be some European country. Germany?
China. Now
Oh,
try this one on. The number one coal burning country in the
China.
world.
China.
Yeah, well, so just because you have the largest amount of green energy, but you're also the largest polluter in the world, India is not going to be in that game. We like the Indians.
No,
Anyway,
and to
good
follow
story
up on
on
that story, French oil major Total is investing 2.5 billion in the Dande Green Energy. That happened last week. It's again kind of piggybacks on that. Really a sign that global companies are increasingly under pressure to invest in environment, and they're eyeing India's 1.3 billion energy users. Talk about new marketplaces, Stu.
And good news. Hey, I want to just give a shout out here. This young lady, the title of the article, Solving America's Solar Inequity Starts in the Neighborhood. Crystal Hensley is a rock star. She's been leading the charge to get lower kilowatt hour where it's needed. She was a middle-aged white salesman, gave her start in green energy. She got a front row seat and she saw that only white people were able to buy green energy. She has now flipped this around and she is targeting Detroit and all of the low income housing areas to get solar power to them to lower the kilowatt per hour. Again, her name is Crystal Hensley, getting low cost kilowatt per hour. Let's get her all the stimulus money we can.
Yeah, talk
Great
about
job.
targeted stimulus. And this is a fact. You can't deny this by looking at the data. Higher energy costs disproportionately affect poorer Americans, and it's
Yes.
just that we can look at the data. Generally, minorities are poorer than white people. So there's nothing. So this is awesome. I love this story. You can check out this and all of these international stories via the world's greatest website, www.energynewsbeat.com. Check out the international page. All of these stories are there. Moving over to the U.S. shale side. Couple big stories here. One, we'll kind of go in the order of which it happened. I saw this on CNBC this morning. Larry Fink, CEO of the world's biggest asset manager, BlackRock, warned today that companies it invests in will need to show a game plan for surviving in a world aiming for net zero carbon emissions. He also released an annual letter of management to across the world. He also said they would need to make sure they, quote, clear on how the plan is integrated into the company's long-term strategy and reviewed by the board. Here's one other quote from him. The world is moving to net zero, and BlackRock believes that our clients are best served by being on the forefront of that transition. Right afterward, he hopped on a Gulfstream, which burns about 1,100 gallons per hour, and flew back to New York, wherever he's from. So we can talk about both sides of our mouth here. They do have 8.7 trillion in U.S. assets under management, mainly in passive funds, but they have a huge stakes in large corporations. This is tricky, Stu. While we can both agree that this is probably misguided and just a PR stunt. They control $8.7 trillion, Stu. That's, if you're talking about a world market of about, 100, there's about 40 trillion sitting in liquid markets right now. That's, a decent chunk for BlackRock. So, whether, I joke, he did probably, I don't know if he hopped in his Gulfstream, but
He did.
I did see
it was on Twitter, and I trust Twitter.
I saw it. I didn't know
Twitter
he actually got on the
never
Gulfstream.
wrong. Twitter's never wrong.
But point is, it just cracks me up. These guys, we get on a private jet to go fly to the G7 summit, only to tell how much, why we need to, cut back on coal. It boggles my mind, Stu. Did you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, BlackRock is controlling it, and I wish everyone would take a cool drink of water and analyze the best. Let's get smart water.
Let's get smarter.
And just take a cold drink. We want the lowest kilowatt per hour to all of the people.
Yep.
That means let's get them solar, let's get them wind, let's get them geothermal, let's get them hydro. But
because a solid mix is good.
Yes.
Dude, Texas is 30% renewables. What?
No, but our grid right now, when we're spending billions and trillions of dollars, our infrastructure will not support a totally green system.
But that's not what I'm arguing. But what I'm saying is we're already, ERCOT already puts out for Texas, it's like 30% mix of solar wind, which is awesome because
I think it's great. But Texas is ahead of the curve. And you know why? It's because they spend
I'm using it as an example of it. That's how we should be thinking on a mass scale. We shouldn't be thinking about 100% green. We shouldn't be thinking about 100% fossil fuels. There's a mix of seasonally. Natural gas is going to be a little cheaper in the summer than it is in the wintertime. Well, it should be. So maybe we go solar, hydrogen, nuclears, all this other stuff. I've been looking into a lot of the green, blue, and gray hydrogen. No, I'm with you, Stu. So I just think it's going to be fascinating to see how BlackRock goes. And it'll be interesting to see if they follow through with this. Because at the end of the day, if they don't follow through with this, it could just be smoke and mirrors, and it could just come down to a press release. We got to move on here quickly. Dakota Access Pipeline. As you know, guys, a lower court they've been fighting about it. Finally, this lawsuit has finally reached the D.C. Circuit, and they ruled on Tuesday that the district court did not overstep its bounds when it scrapped a key permit for the Dakota Access Pipeline, but they also did not shut the project down. So get this, guys. The U.S. Court of Appeals for District of Columbia agreed that the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers fell short of the National Environmental Policy Act when it allowed the Dakota Access Pipeline to cross a federal reservoir in North Dakota, and that violation should have warranted scrapping the easement and going back to the table. But the D.C. Circuit reiterated its previous ruling that the lower court went too far in ordering the pipeline to shut down. Talk about walking a thin rope. No, you cannot continue. No, we're not going to shut you down, but you are unlawfully building. What? Say what?
I'm not sure if that's a politician, a salesman, or a IR person.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
A judge, a politician, and a salesman walk in a room. This is the type of order we get. Holy smokes. It's like everyone's satisfied. It's unbelievable because they don't have to stop working. The quote is out of Earth Justice lawyer, this will be good, John Hasselman, who represents Standing Rock. He told Bloomberg Law, it's time for the Biden administration to keep its promises to the Indian country and shut down this illegal pipeline. It should have never been authorized in the first place, and it cannot be allowed to operate for another day unless these issues are resolved. Woof, that's a mouthful. You can check out this story. I hate talking about this story mostly because We've been talking about the story for 5 years now. Pipe. We know my rant on pipelines. I'm gonna move on before I get in trouble. Quickly here, Enerplus, they go ahead and yesterday announced that it has entered into a definite agreement to acquire all of the shares of Bruin E&P for total cash considerations of $465 billion. Bruin E&P is a pure play Williston private company. They acquire 151,000 net acres in the Williston Basin, including 30,000 net acres contiguous with Enerplus's, quote, Tier 1 acreage. Remember, we're reading the press release, so Tier 1 acreage, in whose eyes? What are they going to come out and say? Yeah, we're adding this to our Tier 3 acreage. I mean, just what do they take us for?
A judge and a IR guy walked into a bar.
Yeah, an IR guy and a director walk into a room. You get EMP press releases. You can read the press release. I don't know too much about this. It's also not my area expert, because when it comes down to evaluating these M&A deals, it comes down to evaluating the proved reserves, evaluating what that worth. Not my area of expertise, okay? Not my area, not a reservoir engineer. What I do know is that I'm pretty anti-shale. And if you're talking about a pure play Williston, well, that's just another word for pure play shale. I don't know. It doesn't necessarily, I don't come to mind saying, oh, yay. Some of the stuff I've heard is that number is cheap just because of the fact that it is all Williston, and that if it was a little more, if it was less contiguous to Enerplus, and there was some reasons why, I don't know. We got DRW coming on Friday, and we're probably going to ask him about this because he knows a little bit more about this. Last story we've got on the day here. Two more stories here, Stu. Talk about politics. Someone at the Department of Interior and somebody for the Ute tribes was listening to our show because after our show runs, where we basically talk about the hypocrisy and that the people that, New Mexico voted Democrat, and now all of a sudden they're the victim of this rule. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. My mom told me that at a young age. Hey, boy, I feed you every day. Don't talk back.
Is this from Elizabeth Warren?
No. Native American tribes are now exempt from the 60-day moratorium, a.k.a. the temporary suspension on U.S. oil and gas leading that Biden fell down. Federal spokesman said for the U.S. Department of Interior. The clarification comes after oil-producing Ute tribe last week asked for the Interior for the exemption from the 60 days pause, saying it would hit its economy and sovereignty. The quote from Tyler Cherry, who's the Department of Interior spokesman, said, quote, the approval process for oil and gas activities does not apply to tribal and individual trust lands. Further proof that this is 100% political. I mean, it's the only reason they're doing this.
What's Tyler Perry got to do with that?
Tyler Cherry. That's the Interior spokesman.
Where did you go on that one? You just took a right turn.
No. Here's the other thing. We also know that today, Biden is ordering a new study on the effect of drilling on federal lands and water. The New York Times reported this is sort of a step farther. This is now saying, okay, there's a 60-day moratorium. Let's use the moratorium to study, should we actually be drilling at all? Not just on federal lands, but specifically water. Holy smokes. I mean, offshore oil and gas is one of the, we don't think about it, but it's like a lot of oil and gas gets pumped offshore, and a lot of these companies, they're the only wells that make money, because trust me, there's not much U.S. onshore that's making money right now. We can go through those numbers on another day. So we'll be covering all of this stuff. I think it's very fascinating what's going to happen. Again, permit stacking is a thing. This doesn't necessarily affect today. This is something that could very much be hurtful 3, 4, let's say he wins another term. You're talking 8 years that this ban could be affected. I think if you see GOP take over in 4 or 8 years, you will probably see this reverse. But hey, there's going to be a 2-year gap where it could be very interesting. So we'll be following this very closely. Finally, on an oddly interesting note, Ring Energy announced yesterday that they are changing their corporate headquarters to the greater Houston area effective January 19th, 2021. They've closed its Andrews, Texas field office, downsized its Midland office, and will be closing its Tulsa office at the end of the first quarter of 21. These initiatives will result in meaningful annual generalized and administration costs, aka G&A, and the company is decreasing its overall office and lease costs. It's interesting, Stu. These guys are pure Midland player, not having a Midland office, working it all out of Houston. What do you make of this?
I think one of the board members actually has office space to rent in the Woodlands. And I think that is probably what's playing into it because the offices over there in Midland are very small. The building's paid for. And you're telling me that you're moving to the Woodlands to save money? The CEO probably lives right down the street from that office that he owns. I am
Yeah, he said
kidding. That is a joke, but maybe not.
that's the sad part is we have to say it's a joke, but it also could not be because that very much well could be the truth. Yeah, I heard it's a small office over there. It's been very interesting. It's like, Stu, we're moving offices, by the way. Just FYI. I figured I'd tell you on the show. We're packing up. We got to move to Pennsylvania. Sorry. Telling you, sorry.
I got another shack here at the lake. You're welcome here.
All right, man. I was finally busy for once. Did we miss anything today?
No, we did have a lot of fun though.
Too much fun. And with that, guys, we're going to let you get out of here, get back to work, finish your day. Thank you for checking us out on the world's greatest energy show, Energy Newsbeat, via the world's greatest website, energynewsbeat.com. For Stuart Turley, I'm Michael Tanner. See you tomorrow, guys, in the Energy Beat.